Ecusta is the product of Harry Strauss' genius and dedication. Harry Strauss was many things: entrepreneur, inventor, salesman, visionary. From his first contact with the cigarette industry as a cork salesman, Strauss had a vision: the ability to provide cigarette paper made in America with American raw material, American capital, and American labor. Strauss had the experience, inventiveness, and the customers to make it possible. There were 4 requisites needed to fulfill the vision: a suitable site for the factory, financial backing, a substitute for linen rags as a raw material, a skilled team of individuals. He was a great believer in the power of people and teamwork. He formed his base team beginning with Wade Ramsey, Doc Jones, Dr. Earl Bryant, and Frank Peschel. With the help of J.E. Serene, the Davidson River site was selected from 60 sites considered. Pure air, pure water, no possibility of air or water contamination from nearby industry, excellent local people with whom to work, and a location near the great tobacco companies made Pisgah Forest the overwhelming choice. Strauss's future customers and his partners would help finance the project: Liggett & Myers, R.J. Reynolds, Lorillard Tobacco, Philip Morris, and a consortium of banks headed by Robert Haynes of Wachovia. The last challenge was more difficult: finding a domestic source of flax suitable for papermaking. First experiments in South Carolina with linen flax failed to solve the problem. Later, research under the direction of Lawrence Dixon culminated in 1937 with the technology for decortication, separating the straw from the shive, a key to making flax a practical source for pulp. California Central Fibers Corporation and Central Fibers Corporation were created to supply converted flax shive to Ecusta. That same year, Doc Jones and Earl Bryant were charged with developing a pilot plant for converting seed flax to paper. July 1937. Preliminary estimates of costs submitted by Serene for a 4-machine plant was $3,102,000. September 1937. Black, Clausen and Company consulting engineers were hired to direct and oversee construction. Frank Peschel was assigned to supervise the project. Late 1937. Ralph Ramsey agreed to act as resident agent to acquire land. March 1938. Ecusta Paper Corporation was created. The name Ecusta was chosen either because it was an Indian word generally said to have meant rippling waters, or because the chosen portion of the Pisgah Forest was once named Ecusta. May 5th, 1938. The properties acquired by Ralph Ramsey as agent were deeded to Ecusta. The contract for plant construction was awarded to Fisk Carter Construction Company, Greenville. Jim Tate was named General Superintendent and W.T. Adams Office Manager. Serene appointed George Wrigley Resident Engineer.
June 14th, 1939, the first whistle blew at the factory. On July 3rd, the day before Independence Day, 1939, Ecusta was ready to cook its first trial batch of flax fiber using the new pulp mill. Finally, independence from European source of supply.
1939 was a banner year for Ecusta as America shook off the final ashes of the Great Depression. But just as Ecusta and America found a new prosperity, Europe was faced with a new menace. Hitler and Il Duce were rampaging through Europe.
We have the men, the skill, the wealth, and above all, the will. We must be the great arsenal of democracy.
On July 6th, 1939, the first batch of pulp was cooked from flax at Ecusta. August 4th, 1939, the first trial samples of cigarette paper was produced on machine number 4. On September 2nd, 1939, the same day Hitler invaded Poland to start World War II, the first saleable cigarette paper was produced at Ecusta. Ecusta was in the paper business for real. It was the first U.S. mill to be built specifically for the manufacture of cigarette paper using American seed flax fiber. In its first year of operation, the plant produced 1,212,000 pounds of cigarette paper, and just in time, for late in 1939, Hitler's rampage through Europe threatened to cut off paper imports from the continent. Seizing on this opportunity, Strauss, in the fall of 1940, authorized the addition of 4 more paper machines, doubling Ecusta's output in 1 year. But even the pristine forests of Pisgah could not long avoid the dark shadows of World War II. In October of 1940, 550 of the 900 Ecusta employees registered in the draft. The first Ecusta employee to be drafted was Gentry Poland, a yard crewman who was called up in January of 1941. In April, Ecusta established a policy that any employee serving in the armed forces would be considered as having been on leave of absence and would be offered his same job upon honorable discharge.
Dribbled up and you came back, and I wanted to we allowed 90 days before you come back to work. And he called me and asked me, said, if you can get back within the next week or 10 days, that we've trouble in this department, so you can come back and help us. Said, I'll cut you in on this year's bonus. And of course, I've been gone several years. And he cut me in on a $500 bonus. Just coming back a little bit early. And he said, I'll give you all the time you want off later. So I took time off later for you.
Out of 700 Ecusta employees who served, 16 gave their lives for their country. They are honored by a plaque in Camp Strauss. In spite of the war, Ecusta continued to grow in capacity and facility, producing 18.5 million pounds of paper a year by late 1941. Strauss, being such a believer in the individual, placed great emphasis on people-oriented facilities. During the war years, Ecusta began expanding employee facilities and programs which included a cafeteria, a police department, a library, and inaugurated a well-written and edited newsletter called The Echo, which is still thriving now under the name of the Ecusta Newsletter. Ecusta organized a square dance team that became so good that it was invited to entertain the King and Queen of England at the White House. In addition to an industrial baseball league, they organized a bowling team and a band, which recorded the music you're hearing now, to play for events such as the first company picnic, which was held 49 years ago. In keeping with wartime conservation, Ecusta established a victory garden. Some of the plots still being cultivated today. In 1945, Camp Sapphire, later named Camp Strauss, was acquired as a retreat and recreational area for Ecusta employees. Its rustic beauty, cool forests, and recreational facilities remain an important facet of Ecusta employees' lives. In 1946, Harry Strauss suffered an apparent heart attack. Even though the seriousness of his illness was not widely known, his financial advisors suggested he consolidate his interests and get his affairs in order. In 1948, Strauss became sole owner of Ecusta, Endless Belt, and Champagne Paper. In April of that same year, John Haynes became a director of Ecusta and helped Strauss find a buyer for Ecusta.
January 1944. Ecusta employees celebrated Harry Strauss's 60th birthday and Mr. and Mrs. Strauss's 40th wedding anniversary, the social event of the century.
I presented him 12 silver goblets on a bobbin, and I was scared to death.
In November of 1949, it was announced that Olin Industries had purchased Ecusta and its companion companies from Harry Strauss. Olin, which had acquired licenses to manufacture cellophane from DuPont, was now looking for a site for a new factory. Pisgah Forest was chosen. In 1950, the cellophane plant construction was begun. Harvey Collison was elected vice president of Ecusta. February 11th, 1951 was Ecusta's darkest day. Harry Strauss died. Through this toilsome world I pass, I do not know how long I'll last. If there's a kindness I can do to one of my friends or fellow man, I will do it while I can. No delay, for it is plain I shall not pass this way again. The first cellophane produced by Ecusta came off the line on June 11th, 1951, and had reached a rate of 13,722 pounds by year's end. For the next 5 years, Olin Matheson's film division and Ecusta Paper Corporation operated as separate entities on the same property, each prospering in its own field. In 1956, Ecusta Paper Corporation lost its identity to become a part of Olin Matheson Paper Division. On March 13th, the board elected John Haynes president of Ecusta Paper Corporation. 3 weeks later, John Olin was elected chairman and director, Haynes staying as president. In May, Lawrence Dixon, revered for his total dedication to Ecusta and its employees, retired as vice president and general manager. In 1957, Harvey Collison was elected executive vice president of operations for Ecusta, Olin Film, Forest Products, and Electrical Division. Milton Herzog was named vice president of the film divisions. Phil Brownell was appointed vice president and general manager of Ecusta Paper Division. August 27th, 1958. The startup of number 10 machine heralded Ecusta's entry into the wood fiber paper business. It and its successors, numbers 11 and 12, were the largest paper-making machines in the world. In 1959, Art Loeb was appointed vice president and general manager of Ecusta. In 1963, John Truesdale became vice president and general manager of the film divisions, succeeded by John Link in 1969. During this year, construction of a new hospital for Transylvania County was begun. One wing, financed by Olin, was dedicated to Art Loeb. Ultimately, Olin contributed $200,000, and employees contributed almost $250,000. In 1969, Garza Baldwin entered the picture as the group vice president, succeeding Phil Brownell. Ecusta has a long history of being sensitive to the environment. Beginning in the late 60s, long before public pressure or even federal legislation required it, Ecusta embarked on a program to drastically reduce discharges to the air, water, and ground, installing water clarifiers, electrostatic air cleaners, and scrubbers. An expenditure of over $25 million to protect the environment. That philosophy still remains in everything the company does. In April of 1972, the first union contract was signed with Local 1971 UPIU AFL-CIO. In 1972, Larry Staples, who had joined the company as a marketing analyst in 1960, became vice president and general manager. Between 1971 and 1974, under his guidance, Ecusta expanded its market share by 12 points to 56% and increased its volume by 15% compared to industry growth of only 4%. Ecusta gained even more self-sufficiency with the establishment of the Ecusta Fibers operation in 1974, a decorticating facility. In 1976, the operation at Pisgah Forest was renamed Ecusta Paper and Film Group. In 1979, Ecusta became the world's safest paper mill. In 1979 also saw the introduction of reinforced cellophane, a combination of cellophane and aluminum foil and oriented polypropylene. Ecusta continued to grow as a major producer of cigarette paper, fine printing paper, and cellophane through the 70s and 80s. In 1982, Ecusta expanded to Australia through the formation of Ecusta Roth, signaling an expanded effort to serve Western Pacific and Far Eastern markets. However, by 1984, the cellophane market had shrunk to the point that it was no longer a profitable venture. That fact, plus the diminishing domestic market for cigarette paper, led Olin to the decision to sell the entire Pisgah Forest facility. Garza Baldwin engineered a management buyout of Ecusta Paper Division in 1985, including all facilities and machinery at Pisgah Forest. That same year, Olin sold the film division. In 1987, P.H. Glatfelter Company of Spring Grove, Pennsylvania purchased all capital stock in Ecusta Corporation. Garza Baldwin retired as president of Ecusta and was elected to the P.H. Glatfelter Board of Directors. Bill Boswell was named president of the Ecusta division of P.H. Glatfelter, with Jim Lovin as vice president of manufacturing, Don Monk, Vice President Technical, and Joel Townsend, Vice President Marketing. What does the next half-century hold for Ecusta?
As you've just seen, Ecusta has had a rich and proud history over the last 50 years. I'm happy to report today that our outlook for the next 50 years is very bright. We have an outstanding organization here on which to build the future, and we will benefit greatly from the tremendous financial and technical resources of our new parent, the P.H. Glatfelter Company. We have experienced great success in the past. We will accept nothing less in the future. Of course, much of our outlook for the future depends on the health of our major markets. The cigarette industry is under attack from many quarters, but the business is healthy, and we expect this market to be good for us for many years to come. Our sales of printing paper and products for international markets are both at record levels this year, and we expect each of these markets to be a strong contributor in the future. We expect, however, that growth for Ecusta must come from the development of new specialty markets. To that end, we have organized a substantial effort to develop new applications for our papers which will reward the demonstrated strength which we have in quality, service, and technology. All of us in the management are confident that if we continue to pursue our philosophy of Ecusta excellence and take exceptional care of our customers, both new and old, our future is limited only by our imagination.
Ecusta bore many names, and at one time or another manufactured a variety of products, all the way from belts to electrical systems. But Ecusta never compromised the heritage born of Harry Strauss's dedication. Today, like 50 years ago, it is a house of fine craftsmen plying their skills in the intricate process of creating very special American-made flax paper and fine printing papers. And the common philosophy which made Strauss and Ecusta prosper still dominates company policy today. No matter how powerful a combination of money, machines, and materials a company may represent, it is a dead and sterile thing without a team of willing, thinking, and articulate people to guide it. That is the legacy of Ecusta, thanks to all of you.